Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Sing 2. It's the sequel to Sing, it's the latest from Illumination. And I don't really like most Illumination. I don't think I like the Despicable Me films okay, but they're not my favorite studio at all. And I don't think this is a film that changes that opinion. It's messy. It just feels like a lot of different plot lines for a lot of different characters. And this is a weird franchise in general because it is very successful, which I don't get. And unlike other Illumination franchises, which has either Crew or the Minions, which are very, recognizable. I'm not going to say iconic, but you can recognize them right away. Or the Louis C.K. dog from Secret Life of Pets. Things like that. This, it's like, I think if I showed you the, koala in a tuxedo in a store, you'd think that's just like a silly stuffed animal or something. And I think you wouldn't recognize it, but people still really like it. Maybe it's like a singing competition thing. I don't know, but I do seriously wonder how this thing is very successful. I did sort of miss out on I never really watched singing competition shows. I went to college right when those things hit, so wasn't in my wheelhouse and was not part of my pop culture dialogue when you're in college going to an art school, believe it or not. So a lot of this stuff is not for me. But I was thinking, what doesn't work about this film in a way that's not just like, I don't know much about singing competition shows, and Illumination sucks, even though both those things are true. I was thinking about it, and so this has various different plot lines, but its main focus is the character Buster Moon, which is a good name. I'll give him that. Voiced by Matthew McConaughey in the English dub and all that, is putting on a show at their big theater. They did the big thing to save the theater. They've saved the theater, and now they're all happy, but it's the sequel, and they bring a big talent scout, and talent scout says, you could never make this in Capital City. Gets upset that they won't be considered big talent, and so then they have to prove themselves in the city for some reason, even though they seem to have a theater they can perform all the time, but they want to be even bigger. So then they break in and basically decide to make up a show that's going to be this sci-fi big show, and they tell them they can't. Is it Cab Calloway? What is it? Is it Cab Calloway? I don't fucking... Clay Calloway, not whatever. They have Clay Calloway, who's this rock star who has been a recluse for all these years. And so they're going to get him to do their big sci-fi, big musical. This is a lot of similarities to the movie Tick, Tick, Boom, except this is horrible. But like Tick, Tick, Boom, they don't put on the sci-fi musical better movie. Spoilers. In Sing 2, they do put on the sci-fi musical, and this movie stinks. So what I've learned from both these is never make a sci-fi musical. It's never going to work. But I do think the whole idea of them, they have a working theater that they worked to save last time or whatever they did. But they have a theater, and it probably would have made more sense to have a movie that's more about them running the theater, having to put on shows, being regular performers, of what that's all about, what that means. But instead, this thing that I don't remember even being mentioned last time, and most people who have seen them don't mention that it was brought up that they can play in this big Las Vegas type place and do this big show. It sort of is like there's a talent agent there. Talent agent rejects them, says they can't make it there, and they're like, well, now we have to make it. And you're like, what? But what about your theater? What's going on there? And they don't really explain that. I'd say that's fairly badly written. The pig character that Reese Witherspoon voices in this, she really wants to do this, but because it's always been her dream, but I don't feel like that was earned either. Just sort of like they have a goal. They just didn't prove it to us as the audience, which I think was a really bad decision. I was thinking of this movie, I was thinking like the older classic Hollywood films that would have, like White Christmas or something, and they'd have a plot line basically for the singing, which are always kind of silly, to be honest, but they at least sort of made sense and connected to a certain degree that made it decently entertaining. And this is just why are we doing this? Why are we going on this journey? They don't really ever adequately explain it very well. I never really felt like it made any semblance sort of sense why they were going to this Las Vegas type place. And they never really attempt to explain it. They're just like, well, we have to go to this Las Vegas type place because we do. I think the idea of having all these different singing animals could work. It's just like you need something to really connect it that's not as just like, well, we want to do a big Broadway show. I'm like, but why would you do that? Because you have a theater, and why wouldn't they just be like recording or like make a content farm out of them for TikTok or something, make it more relevant? They also like don't have any hip hop despite having Pharrell involved. Like, this is about basic pop music of our era, and just like, let's not do hip hop at all. I know it sounds very on brand for me, but in all seriousness, they like reference things, but they never really commit to it, which is pretty annoying. Also, the whole idea of finding this rock star who's played by Bono, who is not really an actor, let's say. And it's also like, why is Bono this rock star? Like, so you could have some U2 songs and stuff. But when I was watching it, I was thinking like, why didn't you go with like Lauryn Hill or somebody who is like, oh my god, they're in this? And I get that like Bono's still like get, and like people who do casting at Illumination deserve some credit, because I often find them, even though they do big celebrity voice movies, which is almost all the time, I do find it they're pretty good at casting them, and or usually, you know, either they get Harrison Ford in Secret Life of Pets 2, or they get Trey Parker to do a Despicable Me movie. Like, kind of crazy things have gotten done. So it's like, I get like the idea of like, oh crazy, you got Bono, but like Bono's not reclusive, and he's not necessarily good at playing that. Like, I wish they'd gotten someone here like, oh, you know, and not like, you know, like a weird person that nobody knows. Like, get someone to know what it is, but we haven't seen in a while. Like, Michael Stipe would be good. Everybody knows who he is. Or just Lauryn Hill. I think Lauryn Hill would have been a good choice, to be honest with you. I don't know why that... I mean, she probably would have said no or not shown up or something, but like, I think like that would have been a much better choice. Or Andre 3000. I was like, you know, Andre 3000 would be cool because we don't see him every day, and he doesn't come out all the time. Bono's like, I think we're still all sick of Bono, and he hasn't really been around in a while. We're just like, he needs to go away forever. It's like, you know, most, when you hear about reclusive rock stars, you want them to come back. I don't know so much about him, and I didn't know like, what did his wife die of? Like, that didn't, whatever. This movie is a total mess, and there's nothing that really works about it. I think it is decently entertaining. I think I used to review Illumination things and be like, this is corporate sludge that means nothing, and it's like, yeah, so that's true. But like, I watched with my daughter, she had a decent enough time. It's like fine for a watch, but I would try to avoid watching it again. Like, I try to be like, hey, what about even the Spirit movie, or Frozen, or watching paint dry, anything but this movie. So I guess I'm like more okay with it, but I just don't, I think it was very badly written. I don't really understand why they even wanted to be on the plot line they were on. It felt like a badly written plot to like one of the Muppet sequels, but like in that it's like sort of jokey and silly. In this, it's like they're so committed to this thing, but you're like, why would I give a shit about your stupid Vegas show? Like, I don't care. Like, it's just like so much something I don't give a shit about, and you're like so into it. It's like kind of pathetic. Like, just like I really wish they thought about what they're making a sequel to. This is directed by Gareth Jennings, who directed Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, not the BBC one, the bad one from the 2000s, and then Son of Rambo, which is cool, but he's just stuck making Sing movies. So I don't think this franchise is particularly interesting or particularly great, and I wish they had looked at more of classic Hollywood, you know, a Bing Crosby movie or something, classic Hollywood musicals, and found a way to connect it better that way. Because the other one, as I recall, had more of a, hey, let's put on a show, kids, and it's like, oh, we're going to save the theater in our town and stuff, and that sort of makes sense to my brain. But if you're like, hey, kids, we're going to put on a multi-million-dollar Vegas show, you're like, guess what I can't relate to? It's just remarkable that they thought this was a good plotline for it, and that they committed to it and didn't earn it. And just, I mean, I admire their confidence that they thought this was a screenplay that someone should make into a movie. Even having Bono in it never really connected. Like, I get you got U2 songs, and I think they got new U2 songs, which that is just, I might have been nicer to this movie had you not done that one. It's awful. Like, I do like some U2, actually, like quite a bit, but like, no, I can't deal with U2 after a certain point in their careers, and that certain point is whatever the fuck they're doing now. Which is pretty awful. I was not happy with this film. I don't think it's horrible or anything. It tries to be decently entertaining, and it's worth watching with your family once kind of thing, but I don't think this film had the care into it to make it to be deserved to be rewatched again. I think it sort of expects you to just sort of put up with it, and it's sort of insulting that it's wasting my time in such a flagrant way. It's also like, why are we going to a new location? It just felt like everything is like, it's a sequel, so we have all these characters. Most of them, like, I like that Eric Andre was in this. Seth MacFarlane's in here somewhere, I think, right? Or was he in the other one? I don't care. No, I guess he's not. I don't know. Who cares? This was not a great movie. I'm continually disappointed with Illumination, and I think they're pretty blatant about, almost never really trying that much. And I guess especially in their writing and the story and stuff. So I guess under the guise of the bad writing that was this movie, and like having various musical set pieces and stuff, and going off in its own direction without thinking of, any sort of enjoyment quality, then I guess this is a decent enough film for kids and stuff. I find the Sing franchise, when I watch it, I'm like, hey, I could be watching a ton of better movies and that do the same thing, and they don't seem to even understand the genre. They just understand how to make a shitty Illumination movie. And in the end, what is the worth of that? I think when you're watching Sing 2, you're often questioning that, also wondering why are people keep seeing these things, and I really wish they didn't. So if you've seen Sing 2 and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. So okay, so